immerse yourself into the world of Creepy Man. He's waiting for you.
The night was thick with silence, broken only by the hum of the engine and the faint static of the radio. Officer Mark was driving faster than usual, his mind preoccupied with the day's events. The road stretched endlessly ahead, flanked by towering trees that seemed to lean in closer with every passing mile. As he rounded a sharp bend, the headlights caught something. A figure standing in the middle of the road. A woman, pale and ghostly, her eyes hollow and her mouth twisted into a faint, sinister smile. Before he could react, she vanished. The car swerved, tires screeching, and slammed into a tree. Dazed and bleeding, Daniel stepped out of the car, his flashlight flickering as he scanned the area. The road was empty, the forest eerily still. He called out, but his voice echoed back at him, swallowed by the darkness. Just as he reached for his radio, a faint whisper brushed past his ear. He froze. Slowly, he turned around, and there she was, the ghostly woman, her head tilted at an unnatural angle, her smile widening as she let out a blood-curdling scream. Daniels fumbled for his gun, his hands shaking as he fired shot after shot. The bullets passed through her as if she were made of smoke. She lunged at him, her scream echoing in his ears as the world went black. About a year earlier, in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, Daniel and his wife, Emily, had bought their dream home. It was a charming house surrounded by tall trees, slightly isolated but peaceful. They had saved for years, and now, finally, they had a place to call their own. Life was good until the whispers started. One afternoon, while cleaning the living room, Emily heard it for the first time. A faint clap. She dismissed it, thinking it was just the house settling. But then, a whisper floated through the air, followed by another clap. Her blood ran cold. Slowly, she turned toward the hallway leading to the bedrooms. There was no one there. A loud clap echoed from behind her. Her stomach dropped. Dread twisted in her gut as she slowly turned her head. As she turned, her blood ran cold. A deafening, inhuman shriek ripped through the silence, then vanished. The wife gasped, her knees buckling beneath her. She stumbled backward, her body collapsing onto the cold wooden floor. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she clutched her chest, her mind struggling to process the horror she had just witnessed. Terrified, she grabbed her phone and called her husband, but his number was out of coverage. Panicked, she recorded a voicemail, detailing what had happened. That night, she tried to shake off the fear. She called her friend to distract herself, but mid-conversation, a loud thud came from the wall. Her friend on the other end asked what the noise was. Emily's voice wavered as she replied, "I think it's just Daniel. I'll call you back." Emily walked into the hall, her footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. The room was shrouded in darkness, a heavy stillness settling around her. Unbeknownst to her, a ghostly figure stood just behind her, motionless, its hollow eyes fixed on her. A sudden chill crept down her spine, an unshakable feeling that she wasn't alone. With a trembling hand, Emily reached for the light switch. The moment the lights flickered on, the apparition vanished without a trace, leaving only an unsettling emptiness in its place. She walked toward the hall. She noticed the attic ladder hanging down, though she was certain it hadn't been that way before. Just a while ago, she had closed it herself. The hallway was eerily dark. A deep sense of dread filled her as she hesitated. The house felt wrong. Taking a deep breath, she whispered, "Hello?" Silence. Then another soft clap echoed from the attic. She called 911, reporting that someone was in the attic. The operator assured her that officers were on their way and would arrive in 10 minutes, firmly instructing her not to go up. But just then, a strange noise echoed from above, an eerie, almost beckoning sound. Despite the warning, an irresistible pull urged her to climb. Against every instinct, she started climbing. Her phone light barely pierced the attic's thick darkness. She scanned the space, finding nothing but old boxes and dust. As she turned to climb down, her flashlight passed over a faded photograph. It showed a woman with a twisted grin and dark, soulless eyes. Emily's hand trembled as she picked it up. When she lowered the photo, the same woman was right in front of her, screaming. Emily fell from the attic, hitting the floor hard. Her phone skidded across the room, landing near the couch. She barely moved as pain coursed through her body. The attic hatch creaked. Slowly, the ghostly woman peered down at her, her mouth open in an unearthly scream. Darkness. When Emily regains consciousness, Daniel stood beside her, his face filled with concern. The police officer assigned to the case insisted that nothing appeared on the security cameras and assured her that no one else was in the house. With that, he leaves the premises. Desperate, she recounts everything to her husband, but Daniel dismissed her fears as paranoia. Concerned for her well-being, he took her to a psychiatrist, who then listened to her carefully before prescribing medication to help calm her mind. But the whispers continued. Daniel had an important meeting in another city, but he hesitated to leave because his wife was unwell. Sensing his concern, Emily reassured him that she was fine and could manage on her own. It was only a 2-day trip, and he would be back before she knew it. Reluctantly, but comforted by her words, Daniel decided to go, hoping everything would be all right in his absence. When Daniel returned home after his meeting, he was met with a sight that shattered his world. Emily lay lifeless on the floor. An empty bottle of whiskey sat beside a drained glass, along with the prescription bottle of sleeping pills from the psychiatrist, now completely empty. His hands trembled as he picked up a note resting nearby. "These whispers won't let me live. They're everywhere in the house, and I can't take it anymore. I'm sorry for leaving you, my love. We'll meet again in another life, without the whispers." As he read her final words, a crushing weight settled on his chest, and tears streamed down his face as he wept. After completing all the necessary police formalities, he carried out the final rituals. He honored her memory with trembling hands and a shattered heart, sending her off on her final journey. A few days later, a young woman named Lisa knocked on Daniel's door. Without hesitation, he opened it and welcomed her inside. The moment the door shut, he pulled her into his arms, pressing a deep kiss against her lips. "What a performance, my love," he whispered with a smirk. Lisa chuckled. What followed was a nightmare no one could have foreseen. Daniel had been having an affair with Lisa, and together, they had orchestrated a cruel and calculated plan to get rid of Emily. Without facing prison, the house had never been haunted. The eerie whispers that tormented Emily had come from carefully placed speakers, filling the home with unsettling voices that chipped away at her sanity. Lisa herself had played the role of a ghost, creeping through the shadows, ensuring Emily believed she was losing her mind. And now their twisted scheme had worked. They had made her death look like a tragic suicide caused by mental distress. No suspicions, no consequences, just freedom. Just as their laughter faded, the doorbell rang again. Daniel smirked. "I think it's them," he said, strolling over to open the door. Standing outside were the same police officer who had visited before and the psychiatrist. But they weren't there for justice. They were part of the plan. The officer had played his role perfectly, erasing the CCTV footage and declaring Emily's fears as mere hallucinations. The psychiatrist had done his part too, prescribing drugs that distorted her mind, making her more vulnerable to the terror they had staged. Now, all 4 conspirators sat together, celebrating their flawless crime. With glasses raised, they drank deep into the night, reveling in their dark success. But as the night stretched on and their celebration turned hazy, fate had other plans. Much later, as the officer made his way home, the night took a sinister turn. The same darkness they had manipulated now seemed to reach for him. And in the opening scene of this twisted tale, he was the first to die. The psychiatrist stumbled home, craving one last drink. As he settled on the couch, the radio flickered to life, cycling through stations before stopping on eerie whispers. He scoffed, blaming his tired mind. Noticing his ice was out, he walked to the fridge. He pulled the door open and froze. Crouched inside was Emily's ghost. Her hollow eyes locked onto his, her mouth twisted into a silent scream. Before he could react, icy hands yanked him in. The fridge door slammed shut, and the whispers on the radio faded into silence. Daniel's phone buzzed. 2 video messages, one from the cop and the other from the psychiatrist. He hesitated, then pressed play. Emily's ghost stared back at him, her hollow eyes unblinking. Behind her, the cop and psychiatrist lay dead, their bodies twisted unnaturally. A whisper crackled through the speaker.
I am coming for you.
Daniel's breath caught. His hands shook. Daniel screamed Lisa's name, his voice trembling with panic. No response. Heart pounding, he sprinted to her room, only to freeze in horror. Lisa crouched on the floor, her limbs twisted at unnatural angles. Tears streamed down her face as she choked out a desperate plea. Before he could react, the massive chandelier above groaned. In an instant, it crashed down, crushing her. Daniel staggered back, terror gripping him. He turned to flee, but his breath caught in his throat. Emily's ghost stood before him, her lifeless eyes locking onto his. Daniel ended up in a mental asylum, his mind shattered. In the mirror's reflection, Emily's ghost sat on his shoulder, her grin widening as she whispered, "You're next." Before you go, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And don't forget to hit that like button. Your likes help our videos reach more horror fans and motivate us to create even scarier content for you. And if you got a real-life horror story of your own, or one you've heard from someone, we'd love to hear it. Send your chilling encounter to mrcreepymanpod@gmail.com and it might be featured in a future episode. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next terrifying tale. Until then, stay safe and don't look behind you.